Hello everybody, and welcome to my Wednesday stream. I've been, away for a couple weeks because I've been on vacation, and I've kind of debated on whether or not I was going to do this stream or not, just because I'm, trying to get back into the swing of things, but, oh, it's dog, go lay down with him. But I decided I'll go ahead and do a stream. So one of the most asked about things has probably been how to keyframe the Motionbuilder, because people don't realize you can keyframe in Motionbuilder, and well, you can. Let me switch over here to this. Turn down the music just a tad, maybe a more reasonable volume. There we go. If anybody needs the music up or down, just let me know. It's cool. But, I mean, I don't think I'm going to sit here and teach animation. That's not really what this tutorial is going to be about. I think if you're wanting to know animation, you're going to go out and study the 12 principles of animation, squash and stretch and overlap and follow through, staging, arcs, curves, secondary motion, everything that's involved with traditionally animating something. I think what I'm going to focus in on more is like where are the controls inside a Motionbuilder? How do you set a key? How do you manipulate a curve? Those sorts of things. So, without further ado, I'll get started. So this is going to be less. Normally I'll do like, here's my tutorial, then I cut my stream, and I'm like, here's how I put that tutorial into practice. But I think this will just be one where I just get in there and just talk about animation and whatnot. Grab my stylus here so I can come in here and start animating. So this is some game animations I did for one of the games I worked on. This is him getting on a jet bike. So the animation is mounting onto a jet bike, and this is what shipped. And it looks like really, really fast animation, but in the video game world, when you're playing this, it's actually pretty darn slow. Or I guess it's reasonable speed. When you actually see it in game, it's realistic motion in video games is usually like egregiously slow. So a lot of times we speed up the action to be a little bit or a lot faster, usually due to gameplay. Like, for example, one of the criteria for this game is anytime you mount a vehicle or get on a vehicle, you have to have the ability to instantly be able to drive that vehicle. So that being said, right here is the attach point. This is where the animation says, I'm now attached to that vehicle. At that point, the player can actually start flying the vehicle. I wonder if I can find some YouTube footage later on what this looks like in game. So I'm sure it's got to be out there somewhere. If I had more time, if I didn't just get off of vacation, I probably would have been a little more prepared. But right here is where you can actually take control of the vehicle, and so you're still, while you're flying the vehicle, you're still like hopping on and getting into place, and you have to be able to jump on from different sides. That was back left. Here's jumping on from the left, so he's same thing. You can see all these animations are pretty much quick animation. That's 20 frames. That's less than a second. Yeah, that's 15 frames. That's half a second. I was jumping on from the other side. A lot of times I'll do one side and then I'll mirror it over to the other side. So I'll do the left side, for example, or whatever feels, most comfortable to me at the time. And when I'm done, I'll just mirror it over. It's super easy to do, unless there's like a technical requirement that says I can't mirror it for some reason. Like his foot has to be in a specific location. Would be a requirement. So that was his left foot making contact. So here, it's his right foot making contact. Yeah, so it's pretty much a mirrored animation. See, we also have to jump on from the back, left, back, right, front, left. You have to be able to mount this vehicle from any direction. So we had to take that into account. Again, this is like half a second to get onto this bike. Mount right, front right. So I thought I had mount directly from the back, but I guess not. I think I had to do the quarter panels. Then you have dismount, right? So we have, depending on the direction that you're facing, you're going to dismount in that direction. So, and I'm actually dismounting into the fall animation. So we did a jump animation. And the jump animation is broken apart into pieces so that you have an initial takeoff, so you kind of, if I remember correctly, you run, jump, and you take off, and you come down like you're falling, and then you kind of have this like falling animation that's just kind of like an idle and falling, and then you have an impact where you hit the ground and run away. So this is the end of the fall, beginning of the impact animation. So this is an established pose. If I go to the right side, you can see he pretty much falls in the same position, left foot down, so that he can hit the ground and run. Because usually in this game, because it's a running, gunning shooter kind of a game, you would jump off and be in constant motion. You don't just jump off and stand there. Same with dismount back. Oh yeah, I remember. So if you just dismount, while you're traveling, the jet bike will fly out from underneath you, and you'll just kind of jump back. And it's really fast motion. Again, these are it's like 15 frames. It's like half a second. We animate at 30 frames a second, so 15 frames is, half a second. He's gonna step up there. He's gonna kick off. He's gonna fall, fly, and then land. So that's kind of what I decided. These are the choices I made. I thought it'd be cool if he came up and he put his foot up and he jumped back and he fell. So when you're working on a game, those are technical things that you have to think about. You have to think about, how am I going to mount it? I'm going to mount from a jump. Code and engineering said we're going to blend from a standard jump to whatever pose that you're in, and this is the pose I chose from coming on this way. And the blending game is so fast, it actually works and looks pretty good, I think. So he jumps on, shoom, like that. Same with the back, back left. It's my own pose. I looked at reference videos. I looked at, cowboys jumping onto the backs of the horses, or guys jumping onto motorcycles. Just fancy ways of jumping onto things. And I kind of thought to myself, well, he could probably step on this little fin to kind of put his hand up here and kind of like swing himself up and onto the seat of this bike. So when I go forward with this tutorial of hand keying animations, we'll keep some of these technical requirements in mind as we go through and do this. There we go. All right, so this was my example file. Let's get in and open up our character. And here is our character. Oh, I didn't mean to say open. Merge. I want to merge in the jet bike now. Don't need animation or takes, just the assets. So I'll turn all that other stuff off. And there's the jet bike. And his seated position is actually right over 0. And it's set up that way on purpose. Just makes it easier when exporting to engine, or at least the engine I was working on at the time. Alright, so let's see, what can we do here? What's the first thing? Usually I take the time and I sit and I think about the animation. And I think about how I want the guy to get onto the bike. And I think I'm going to have him mount from behind. Let me see here. What's really funny is my current animation director hates the word mount. So we have to say enter and exit. Which I think is funny. All right, so we haven't established how he sits on the bike, but that's okay. We can establish that as we animate. So we've already said, all right, it's going to be about 30 frames for this animation. So I'm going to create a new take. Drop this down to 30. Now, if you go back and look at some of my past tutorials, you can see how kind of the control rig works. It's a combination of FK and IK. All these little sticks here that you see in this GUI these are the FK. So it's forward kinematics. If I grab that joint, it's like it's moving it around. Whereas if I grab the shoulder, yeah, I can, because it works together. But you would translate the IK. So here's the hand IK versus grabbing an FK joint. And you can add influence to the IK. For example, the feet have IK and the hips have IK influence on it, which means they're pretty much stuck to the floor. If I grab them and try to lift him up, I can't yank him off the floor because the feet are locked and pinned with the IK. And if I don't want that to happen, I can just turn these pinning off. And now I can freely move him around. We'll turn that back on. All right, so let's principles of animation, right? Strong posing. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to figure out how I want this guy to turn off the pinning for now. I'm gonna get this guy in a strong pose and see how it goes. So I mean, I just looked at my other animation, so that's kind of what's stuck in my head right now. So I'm just going to get this guy roughly in the right spot. Get his foot on here. Maybe bend his toe up a little bit. Set a key. Oh, I set it on frame 30. Let me move that key to frame 0. So it'll be his starting frame. All right. Now I'm on the right frame. So frame 0. I'm setting a full body key right now. I'm going to go ahead and pin that foot. Put his hand on here. I need him in kind of a jumping pose, right? Because you're going to run, you're going to jump onto this thing. That's the great thing about this control rig is you can quickly pin body parts like I want to quickly pin that hand, so I'm gonna pin it, twist it, and I kind of move back a little bit. And full body IK helps me pose this guy relatively well. Him looking where we're going. That's a little actiony. I personally like to split my view and work this way so I can quickly grab fingers and get those things posed. This is why I love Motionbuilder. It's just like, boom, instant IK fingers. It's so difficult to get these kind of controls in other packages. So all I'm doing is hitting S. S sets a key. Let me go over to my F-curve editor and select translation rotation on this so you can kind of see the keys that are getting set. I think you could probably bow out a little bit more like that. I think maybe his hips would be that way, and his torso would be that way, like he's kind of reaching for it. Let's see. Let's get that other hand posed. I like to pose the fingers when I animate. Rather than having these flat pancake hands. It just helps, in my opinion. Fun little things you can do when you're posing your character. It's like I want to keep his hand pinned in one location, translationally. Like I want the hand there, but I don't want to lock the rotation of it. So what I can do is I can come here into the hand and just pin translation. Oh, I did it to the thigh. Translation on just the hand. Now if I grab his arm at the top, you can see I can rotate his arm and get a really good pose and keep his hand in that general location in space. And the same is true as if I wanted to keep rotation. Like if I wanted to keep rotation for some reason, let's say I liked his wrist or his hand there and I wanted to rotate his arm up like this, I could do the same thing and then kind of keep just the rotation of his hand in place. So that's something to think about whenever you're posing a character, is just utilizing these pinning to help you quickly achieve whatever pose you're looking for. I kind of like where his hand is at in space, but I don't mind if it rotates. So I'll just leave that pinned. And I like his head, so I'm going to pin his head so his head doesn't rotate. It's going to be looking at this bike. There we go. Right there. Now what I want to do is I want to adjust his spine a little bit more. So I can do a couple things. If I pin it with translation, I can come in here to the hips and rotate his hips, and you can kind of see how it affects the spine. And if I reverse it, if I do rotation and I rotate his hips, it's kind of a different effect. So each version of this is useful depending on what you're doing. In this case, I think I want to do that, set a key, then unpin that, and rotate it back just a little bit. I think I want his hand to come with him. I think he's kind of high, maybe. So I'm gonna push him back a little bit. So I don't know. I think that's okay. That seems like an okay action pose. Maybe I can even put his foot a little bit higher on this fin. There we go. All right, so now this is going to be a combination of like straight ahead and pose to pose. A lot of times in traditional animation, the lead animator would come in and be like, or the key animator would come in here and be like, all right, set a key here, go down to frame 30, now he's on the bike, and then maybe an in-between pose, maybe. And then the tweeners would come, then they go play golf, right? And then the tweeners would come in and they would fill in all the in-between drawings. 3D animation, you know, it's more like puppeteering, and the computer does all the tweening for you. So, and then there's a couple different techniques when it comes to animating, a CG character like this. And one of the techniques is to use stepped animation, which is like a staircase. So you can set a character to automatically do this. Show you how, or not a character, but like your settings you can set to do this. So if you come down here into your key controls, which is right there, you can say type, right? Mine's set to auto, but you can come down here into step, S-T-E-P, step, and set it to step. If I go and I select all my controls that I just set, it still has my auto key, auto spline on it. So I'm just going to switch that over to step. So spline layer, step, there. And you can choose which type of step you want. Do you want it to hold the pose and then on the next key shift to the next one, or do you want it to immediately shift to the next pose? I think I'm going to have it hold and then shift. So, all right, so that's that pose. Now I'm going to go forward I don't know, 15 frames, maybe. Think about this. Maybe I'll go to frame 30. I'm gonna go to frame 30. I'm gonna put him on the bike. Again, there's just no right way to do this. You can, you know, all roads lead to Rome. It's whatever you think works best for the situation at the time. I'm gonna zero him over X, zero him over Z because I know it needs to be over 0, 0. Lift them up. Let's zero out that rotation. Actually, I'm gonna do this. If you click that button up here on full body, he will go back to his T pose. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna start from scratch to get him on this bike posed. So now I want his feet up here. I kind of want the heel of his boot to be caught on that. Right about there. And I'm just going to start setting full body keys. Oh, when I get a body part that I like, I'll go ahead and I'll pin it. So I believe posing is very important. Very important. Even when you're dealing with motion capture, it's important to make sure that the posing and the adjustments that you're doing are strong. His head's still pinned. It'll probably be like looking like that, kind of. There we go. Maybe set him a little bit more far forward. Oh. Oh. Get this over here. Oh, I think when I posed this guy the first time, I think I had 2 fingers kind of on the throttle and then 2 fingers on the brake. I figure that's probably how I would I would ride a crazy jet bike, hover bike. So again, when I'm posing, I'm kind of doing broad brush strokes. And then I slowly refine as I go along. And I got the save prompt. It says, you've done a lot of work. Why don't you just save that file? And I will. There we go. File saved. All right, so that handset, I'm going to go ahead and pin that so I don't bump it accidentally. I mean, I can still bump it if I grab it, but at least full body IK won't cause any problems like that. Get my IK to get me close. In fact, I'll go ahead and turn pinning on right now for that hand. Get the elbow down. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is pretty much animating. Adjusting and making cool poses. And then timing so that they all work together. There we go. All right, now we can refine some of this other stuff. So I don't know if I care for the way his spine looks on the bike right now. I think I want him a little more like that, but then I'm gonna have to straighten up his back just a little bit. Yeah, that looks about right. All right, so there we go. Now I kind of got my end pose. We'll say that's what it is. Maybe his knees need to be a little less, and maybe his knees need to be a little more out. Take it back. This is a little more like it. It's kind of a fun thing about animating and having some freedoms to create, being able to make some fun choices on the way things look. That'll work. Oh. Oh, and he slid. That means something is not keyed with stepped. I reselect him, reselect all his keys, reset it to stepped. There he goes. He's here. Now he's here. Here. Now he's here. So now I'm going to go halfway and try to figure out what his pose should be, like halfway through ish. I'm not worried about timing. I'm just more worried about the different steps to him getting into a seat. Let's see here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with the clean pose right there. Oh, actually, before I do that, I'm going to copy this in my pose controls. So there, and I think I want to make another pose of him sitting down. So now I have two poses that I've created, and typically I go and I'd rename these, like, I don't know, enter, and then like sit or something. So so yeah, now I'm gonna go halfway in between. I'm gonna try I'm gonna start putting that next pose. So this. Zero that out. Let's unpin all of his limbs so we have better control. Come up like this. Just gotta get that foot up and over. Remember, think about your line of action whenever you're jumping over or whenever you're doing any sort of pose. Line of action is important, and if you don't kind of know how the kinematics of the body work, you can have some pretty egregious poses. So one of the reasons why I just created those poses is now I can come in here and I can quickly add the finger pose to his hand by just going to my body part mode, selecting those fingers, and paste it on just the fingers. So now I've got that hand pose that I created earlier, and I don't have to spend a lot of time re-posing that hand. Go back to full body mode. Let's just get this in the general vicinity. I'll kind of see how the different poses play with each other as he transitions. I go ahead and lock that hand down so I can continue to manipulate. There we go. So if you're just joining, what I'm talking about is keyframing basics. A lot of people have requested, how do you keyframe in Motionbuilder? So that's what this is. It's a tutorial kind of on how to keyframe. I'm not trying to teach animation. I'm just trying to say, hey, here's all the different controls. And these are where they're located. Let's get that. Oh, wrong button. Body part mode first. Then set the keys on the fingers. Yeah, I don't think I really like this song playing right now. I'm gonna have to get this off my playlist. It's just like, I don't know why I downloaded it. I think I was just desperate to have something playing in the background, and it's license free. Obviously, it's license free. All right, so there. I'm not quite happy with his hips just yet. I'm gonna pin. Again, I said earlier the difference between pinning translation on like the chest and rotation. This time I'm gonna pin rotation and see how it works. So that's what it looks like. If I had done the other, if I had done translation, it would have done this, right? So you got to know what to pin and when, and what effects it has. In this case, I kind of want to adjust the rotation of his hips just a little bit. Now I think I'll switch and I'll pin just translation on his chest. There you go. I think it's looking better. So pose 1, pose 2, pose 3. I'm going to move this first key to frame 10, or the second key to frame 10. Then I'm going to head over to 20, and I'm going to have him planted on the bike. I think I'll start off with this pose that I saved. But I think I'm gonna have him standing up, like his feet have just hit. Set that key. Now I can kind of go back and forth. A lot of animators, they'll actually they'll set their keys real close together so they can quickly go back and forth, as opposed to what I'm doing, where I'm kind of spreading them out in the time frame that I need to have the animation edited to. Okay, so what I'm thinking about now is his feet hitting. So he's going to come around. I think I'm going to have this foot up like it hasn't quite hit just yet. But this other foot has hit. Again, being a game animation, you're going to be able to see this from all sides. If this was a cinematic and at a specific camera angle, where you couldn't see both feet, I probably wouldn't worry about it so much. I will adjust that foot though so it doesn't look so awkward. So the player camera is actually going to be behind the player like that. So I'm also kind of thinking about silhouette. Like he may be jumping on, but the camera is most likely going to be like right about here-ish as you jump on. And then as you jump on and the bike takes over, it'll probably rotate around here, which is whatever the bike camera is. So I'm trying to think about how this reads from where the player camera is. I know that sounds contradictory to what I just said about you have to think about camera angles, or you have to animate all around them because you can see from any side because it's a game character. Now I'm like, well, you got to think about silhouette from the player camera, which is very important that the player camera read well, but if you're another player and you run up to your buddy who's jumping on the bike, then you can see it from other sides as well. So there, I'm going to go ahead and select his fingers and head back to this pose and body, and then paste those fingers on. Good. Yeah, so I'm going to go in 5 frames and grab this foot and pin this hand, that foot, that hip. And I think I'm going to have them compressed down. Man, you dogs are so loud. Cut it out. Silly dogs. So compress, jump. Maybe this needs to come in a few frames. Let's see. This is a good way to figure out timing as well. So then I think he's going to hit, but he's going to compress down. So I've added another key over here. I'm going to pin his hands. Press him down, maybe push him forward a little bit, like he's kind of hit and gone forward. His momentum's kind of carried him forward a little bit. Maybe his head bobs a little bit. Maybe his elbows flare out a little bit. I don't know. I'm just kind of, my mind is trying to think what would happen. He's running. So that's something else animators will do a lot of times is we'll kind of act out what's going on. So I'm thinking he's running. He's going to plant. Jump, jump. Let's see. Let's run, jump. Hurdle up. Come down. I think his left hand will be forward. Yeah, I think his left hand will be forward. Left arm forward a bit. So, which it's forward there. You two hush. Hold on, I'm gonna yell at the dogs for a sec. There you go. I don't know if you can see them back there. Like puppy dogs being puppy dogs. Alright, so I decided his left arm is gonna still be coming forward here. So back to getting him posed. All right, so where were we at? So it's the plant, compression, leaping up and over, landing, hitting with the compression, which it's hard to tell right now, and then settle in. And it all has to happen within 30 frames, which is 1 second. What are you doing, dog? What are you doing? You trying to be part of this stream? Silly dog. Lupin. Say hello. Say hello to the people. Lupin says hello. Alright. Go play. But not loudly. Alright. So one of the things I'm doing while I'm posing is I'm just trying to break up the symmetry, his hips and everything. People aren't usually very symmetrical. There's usually some sort of canter to them. I think I'll put that on 5, copy that last frame, put it here. So it's like boom, compression back. Might have to readjust a couple of these keys for timing. So yeah, I think that's working. So I think that left hand is right where it should be. The right hand, I think, hasn't hit yet. The right hand is still...
You two stop. Go lay down. Golly.
Knocking over lamps and stuff over here.
Go lay down.
Darn dogs. There we go. So get that, and then boom, and then back. His hips might be moving too far forward. Oh, right there. So you can use your comma period on the keyboard to toggle back and forth between different keys. Kind of see where you're at. Too far forward, moving back a little bit, set a key. Still too far forward, set a key. That's better. I want some forward movement, but I don't want too much. I think I'll go ahead and I'll lift his body up just a little bit, see how that feels. Have him looking at his bike. He's looking at this handle because that's what he's going to grab. He's going to be looking at that handle because he's going to grab that one first. So I think this has come along pretty good. At some point, you have to ask yourself, when am I done kind of stepping through the animation, and when am I going to start refining? Now, you can break down these animations or keep adding poses and make it like feel super like you're almost going all the way through it, almost like it's like it's a real old stop motion animation. But at some point you're going to have to convert everything over to splines and start editing the splines. I think I'm going to do that now for demo purposes. I could go in and keep adding keys, but I think I want to switch over. So I'm going to select everything, select all my keys, make sure everything's selected. It's important in your key controls to switch back over from step to back over to whatever you like to use. In this case, I'm just going to use auto. Select everything. I'm going to hit auto. I'm going to reevaluate my. The dog just ran off. I hope he doesn't have to go outside and go to the bathroom. All right. So now we can kind of see what it looks like with some motion, and start figuring out what else needs to happen to this animation. Well, first thing I need to do is I need to plant that hand. So I'm going to turn IK on to that right hand. And at some point I want that to turn off because I want it to feel a little more natural swinging around. I'll just key that there, go forward a frame, key it off. I'll probably do the same thing with these feet. Start with that foot. It's planted. I need that foot to hang behind. This is a good time to actually start. I've been doing full body poses or full body keys and kind of treating everything as a whole. But right now it's kind of like a good time to start thinking about the individual body parts and animating legs and arms and stuff individually. I think this dog is probably saying, I need to go outside and go to the bathroom. So I'm just going to hit play here, and I'll be right back. I'm going to get these dogs outside so we can go potty in the yard, not on the carpet. Hold on. All right, go outside. All right, accident averted. All right, so this foot needs to lag behind, so I'm just going to grab that key, probably slide it back here a little bit, flatten that curve. This is a good time if you want. You can like add a little bit of compression in. Maybe right here. So something cool you can do is you can actually pin the toes and just push down on the heel. Set a key. Oh, yeah, set a key. Then unpin it. Actually, maybe I will keep it pinned and then I'll just lift up like this, like he's pushing off. I'm getting a little mushiness in the foot here. That can be remedied by turning IK on the toe. You can see that he's no longer being mushy. There we go. There, now it feels a little more like he's pushing off. Then right here is where I want to turn off the IK for the feet and the toes. So I'm just going to set a key, go forward a frame, and turn it off. There we go. That's right, because I'm having the right foot hit first, so I think I'm going to delay this foot coming down a little bit more. But I do want the IK to turn on right there. So I'm going to turn that on, key it, go back a frame, turn it off, key it there. I think I'm going to delete that key. Remember, it's okay to delete keys. It's not a big deal. Just because you think you set a good key, when you go through and you're like, well, you know, that key's kind of being troublesome, just go ahead and delete it. Now, when I move this foot, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the IK key that I set and the foot at the same time. Kind of get that timing down. Now what I can do is I can add an auxiliary pivot right here and rotate it from the pivot, but I think I'm going to do that in a different pass. That's kind of one of the advantages of Motionbuilder and the way it edits motion is, even though I'm hand keying this animation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to eventually bake everything down where there's a key on every frame, and then I will actually treat my hand keyed animation like I treat motion capture. And things usually turn out pretty good, at least in my opinion. They turn out pretty good. Because that right there is kind of the effect I want to get, but I don't know if I care for how it's handling it right now. So I'm just going to a couple of undos. I'm going to check the curves on my hips. It's kind of janky right there. Sometimes I'll go ahead and I'll just push a key around to see what happens. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. Generally, when you push a key around for the hips, you have to also push it for the spine as well, because the way that they bend, they kind of work together. And if you just push keys on just the hips, kind of that symbiotic relationship that they have of twisting will get out of sync and things will look kind of bad. Let's see what's going on here with those hips. You can kind of see how it's like, let me scrub back. The keys, you can kind of see the little dots here. Each one of those dots is a key. You can see how they're really far apart here, but then they kind of get really close together here. So I'm wondering if I grab these and I just start shifting them around a little bit, maybe add a key here and here, it evens it out just a little bit. Then I can probably come in here and smooth out the spline. Either I can grab with the handle and do it, or I can just hit smooth and then refine from there. You can see the splines are now getting smoothed out. So one of the things I'm doing is I'm thinking about, I'm working from the core out. So the hips out, so hips to feet, and then hips up the spine, down the arms to the hands. I think I want that left foot hitting a bit sooner. So I'm definitely looking at this curve from all the different angles. Oh, do I have the right thing? I don't have the right thing selected. Oh, what would that be? Let's see. There we go. Hey, Pink Werewolf. How you doing? There, Luna says hi. So, kind of get you up to speed. Talking about hand keying animation, so feel free to, like, when I'm done here, go back and watch it from the beginning. This is less about how to animate, and more about how to use the tools inside a Motionbuilder to animate. So I would probably, let's see, if they came to me at work and said, hey, we need you to do this animation, and it's got to be like 15 to 30 seconds, or I'm sorry, 15 to 30 frames in length, and it's got to start here and in there, and you got to do it from all different sides. I think I'd probably allot myself probably a half day for each way to get onto this bike, and you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 6 different ways you can get onto this bike, because back left quarter panel, back right quarter panel, left right, front right quarter panel, left right quarter panel. Then you have to get off the bike, so you have dismount left, dismount right, dismount back. So I probably allot myself about 3 to 4 hours. So if that gives any idea of how the fast pace I'm working here in this stream. All right, so we kind of have the left foot, we kind of have the hips. Now I'm going to look at the right foot. So the right foot, you see it's doing something kind of weird like that, and it's because IK is on. And even though the right hand has IK and the left foot has IK, I don't really need it on the right foot. So I'm going to just turn it off. And you can see his foot actually has a different trajectory now. The IK has one trajectory and the foot has another. Or the FK has another. So now I'm going to concentrate on getting his left, or I'm sorry, get his right leg up and around the bike. So I'm thinking his leg would probably close in a bit. Got to get that leg to clear the bike right there, but there's like, it's here on this frame and here on that frame. And this frame seems pretty good. Like, I like where it's at there. I don't care for where it's at right here. That's only one frame back. I'm going to try adjusting 2 frames back and see what happens. It's getting there. Again, it's so fast. You probably never notice that the foot's clipping into the bike a little bit. So I find interesting. I kind of grew up in the industry calling it clipping, like geometry's clipping into other geometry. But I hear other guys and gals call it crashing. I'm crashing into that geometry. So it's interesting as you get into the industry, hearing different nomenclature used for different aspects of CG animation or game development or motion capture. All right, so now it's going to clear. I want his foot IK to turn on right there. So I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to go back a frame and turn it off. There we go. And it locks in. Shoot. So one of the things you have to do is you just kind of have to watch your animation. Just kind of like let it play over and over. Think about what you like about it, what you don't like about it. What I'm doing right now is I'm just concentrating on his hips and his legs. So there's a trick that animators will do a lot of times. They'll hide geometry. Let's see if I can make that happen here. So go over to groups, let's see. Turn off his head. Let's turn off his torso. Turn off his arms. All right, so now it's just some legs. Because that's all I care about. All I care about is his hips and his legs hopping onto this thing. I don't want to be distracted with everything else, right? Yeah, see how his foot's like going straight through that. I don't like that. Turn pinning off for a sec. I like that. I think here his foot needs to be out. So we got some, we're going to call these smart pants, digital pants, smarty pants as we like to call them. Jumping up on the bike. Okay, I think that's getting better. Looking at the curves, curves aren't too bad. Let's turn his bits and pieces back on. I'll do these gloves. And not that torso, that torso. Not that head. Wait, where's my favorite head? There you go. That's probably my favorite loadout for this guy. All right, now we can concentrate on the arm. I'll start with the arm that is first in contact with the bike. Put down there. Drag his arm back a little bit. Do a little bit more. There we go. Flatten these curves. And flattening the curves is just kind of helping it keep it from overshooting where I want it to be planted. Make it feel like he's pushing off with his clavicle. Remember, shoulders are very important to animate. Otherwise, you get some very stiff shoulders, and I tell you, it drives me batty when I see, especially with motion capture, like really stiff shoulders. Like they didn't take time to actually like get those shoulders to feel right in the animation. Come down, grab that. And right there is where I want the contact, so that's where I'm going to turn the IK on, set a key, go back a frame, turn that key off. So that's going to help that hand lock in there. Now I could probably do this with auxiliary effectors, but I think I'm just going to do this with the standard IK nodes for this example. Flatten that curve. All right, so hands and fingers. I think I'm going to flail those out. He's coming and grab. And I'll do the same thing for the other hand. And he grabs here. Turn that on. Key, go back a frame, turn that off. I think this compression is happening a little too slow. It needs to be faster. That's like a full body key. Oh, I bet I can. I wonder if we can just do this. Start at frame 2. That feels better. Yeah, frame 3. I'm going to switch that to frame 3. Now it starts on frame 3. So for demo purposes, we're going to call this pass done. We're going to imagine that we actually spent a little bit more time refining things, and kapow is right. That we've spent more time refining and kind of adjusting the curves and doing all the little bits and pieces, following through with the different principles of animation to make this feel good. I want to move on to some of the other fun things that you can do as a hand key animator inside of Motionbuilder. So I'm gonna take this, and if I'm done, I'm just gonna hit plot skeleton, and plot to control rig. Now everything is baked down. Keys on every frame. You can see that. Now I'm going to treat this like motion capture. So now that I've hand keyed it, I'm going to treat it like motion capture. So first thing I'm going to do is I talked about that foot coming in here, and there's something specific. I don't want that foot to just hit that, I honestly don't know what that's called. The clutch. I think on a motorcycle, that's the clutch, right? On the jet bike, I'm going to call that the hover doodad. So I want that foot to like plant and have a better motion on it than what's currently on there. So I'm just going to kill any animation that's on the IK. I'm going to turn that off completely. I'm going to create an auxiliary pivot. I'm going to take that pivot. I'm going to put it, let's see, let's go to a right view, zoom in. I'm going to put that pivot like right where I think the center pivot would be if this was a cylinder, which it kind of is. Right there. In the front view. There we go. So I'm going to put that auxiliary pivot right there. There it is. And it is turned off right now. So I'm going to replot this down. Now I'm going to turn that on. And then an animation layer. It's going to hit. I've got a little more control over it. So when it hits, I'm just going to set a key just on that leg. I'll set a key over here. Oh. Why is that not pivoting? Because of that? Oh. I bet I know why. This is what happens when you move from any earlier version of, really early version of Motionbuilder to this. I bet I have to turn off the control rig and turn it back on, or the characterization. And I bet it will work. Give me a sec. Navigator. Character. This is always dangerous to do. It's usually a good idea not to do this while you're in the middle of animating. So character definition, I'm just going to turn it off. I'm going to turn it back on. And let's see if it works now. Let's find out. What is it? I'm going to delete it. There we go. I'm going to recreate that. So if you're ever having serious problems with your control rig or things just aren't working, sometimes something buggy can get into it. And what you can do is you can actually just delete your entire control rig and recreate it. So create auxiliary pivot. Move that into place. Still not functioning as expected. It's really strange. Well, like I said, when in doubt, delete it and recreate it. So let's find out what happened. Our Motionbuilder could just be tired. Let me save my file. I'm gonna bet Motionbuilder is tired and I just need to reboot it. Let's find out. All right. Let's turn that off. Oh, there it goes. Now it's working. All right, let's plot this down now. Plot to skeleton, plot to control rig. All right, so resetting my bookends. I'm gonna do that. See, now it's working as I expected it to. Strange. There we go. Set a key. That might be a bit much. So here's a trick that you can do to, let's say you've set a key like this where it's just too much. And you want to minimize it. Well, you could come in here and fix it, or you can take that key and you can drag it away, and then set a key, and then delete the key that you just drug. Like that's too much right there too, so I'm gonna go that way, set a key, and then delete. So there you go. I think I'll do the same thing to the other side. Get rid of that, turn that off. Don't need pinning. Create an auxiliary effector. I'm sorry, not the effector. Delete the effector. Create an auxiliary pivot. There we go. All right, so do the same thing with that foot. As it comes in and hits, set a key. Oh, forgot to bake down. Let's delete those keys and bake that. think I'll have it split that way. I need to zero it out right there. So 0. Oh, I'm moving way out. There we go. There we go. I could, if I really wanted to stick more, I could probably add in some nulls and constraints and do some other things. And I don't think it. This would be such a fast animation. You would never notice that fidelity, or at least that level of fidelity. And I'm going to do the same thing with the hand. So create an auxiliary pivot. Take that pivot, I'm going to put it into the grip. I'll do the same thing with the other hand. There we go. I'll just plot that down. Now I can turn these on. Set my first key. Set my last key. Now I can make this hand move around the grip. And get that last one. I think I'm going to do this one a little bit different. I'm going to have his hand come in like that. Might be a bit much of a movement. Just play with the keys a little bit. I'd probably embellish on the hands a little bit as well. Kind of like maybe have the fingers reach out and grab and wrap around a little bit better. Now I'm going to take a stab at the head. Make sure it's doing what I want it to be doing. It's a little bit nicer. So anyway, that I guess I would say that's probably the basics of just how to get around keyframing a motion builder. I mean, we did a lot of things. We played with the F curves. We went from stepped to smooth. We played with tangents. We've baked things down. We've added auxiliary pivots on the hands and feet to kind of grab a hold of the grips and put the feet on the clutch to kind of like rotate around it. We treated it both as hand key and as motion capture because we baked everything down. In fact, one of the things I like to do is I like to use certain tools to my advantage. So I've plotted everything down. Double check, plot to skeleton, plot to control rig, just be on the safe side. And delete all these auxiliary effectors and just turn the feet and the hands back on. As far as IK is concerned. And something that you can do is select all your curves and give it a smoothing pass. Expand this so I can see all the controls there. For that, 4, 3, 2, small increments on smooths. Accept. There we go. So there's the animation, a lot smoother now. Now, I guess there's one last thing I can do, right? Because like I said, sometimes you want to, you're not supposed to be just animating this from jumping on from the back left. You got to be able to jump on from the back right, right? So how are we going to do that? Well, I'm going to call this, let's name this take. I'm going to delete take 2. Call this back left. There we go. So we've now completed the back left. And probably what I would do is I do the back left, and I do left, and I do the front left. And then I would do this next step, which is to mirror everything. So I'm going to plot to skeleton, plot to control rig just to make sure everything's baked down. I'm going to duplicate that take and rename it from left to right. All right, now I want to mirror it. Let me flip my controls so you can see what I'm getting ready to do. There's my character. Character settings. There's under modify, there's a mirror animation. Right now nothing's gonna happen because he's on the control rig. what you have to do is you actually have to take them off the control rig and click on mirror animation and then plot down. And that's going to take everything, and as it applies it to the control rig, it's going to mirror all the animations. So plot to control rig. Now it looks like he's actually jumping out from the front of the bike because it didn't just mirror left to right, it mirrored the whole character. Now this is very important. You want to turn off mirror before you do anything else. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to plot to skeleton and back to control rig. This just ensures everything is baked down. Then I'm going to go into story and insert character animation track. Select my character, insert, current take. Turn on the ghosting so you can see what's going on there. Now I'm going to, if I remember correctly, what I can do, since he ends at 0, and that's really where I want to rotate it from. I'm going to go into my properties, 3D settings, see if I remember how to do this. Time warp, fade in, fade out, ghost. Here it is, ghost. That's where I want. I want ghost. I want to go to the ghost manipulator time mode. Start. I want to go to stop, which has now switched it over to the stopping position, which will now allow me to rotate it from there. And I've got my snapping set up to 45 degrees. So if I hold down J on the keyboard, I can actually just rotate it around like that until he's on the other side. Or I could have come in here and just rotated it manually. But I think this is best. Now he's jumping on from the other side. So if I like that, I'll go ahead and I'll plot that down. Now, if I didn't turn off that mirror function, it would have re-mirrored it and undid everything I just did. So plot there. And don't need this anymore, so I'll go ahead and delete it. So there we go. 2 animations for the price of 1. He's jumping off from the back right, and he's jumping off from the back left. So essentially what I could do is I could spend, 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours really making this one animation look really nice. You just refine it, make it look good. And then when I'm done, mirror it. And in like 2 minutes, and not even 2 minutes, like within 45 seconds to a minute, you have 2 animations and you're done. You're ready to ship it. Let's look at this again. Yeah, not bad. Back left, back right. Of course, like I said, before you duplicate and mirror, yeah, just make sure you're really happy. Make sure your director has signed off on, the animation, that they're happy with it. Make sure it functions in game, and then mirror it. Go ahead and go through mirroring it and adding that to game, or however you think best. I'm just trying to think of how to do this stuff in as fewest steps as possible, because anywhere you can save time on a project is super beneficial. So anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this nearly 2-hour-long hand keying tutorial. Basics of Motionbuilder. S is set key if you're using Maya hotkeys. If you want to see manipulation of curves, I mean, I've got a ton of other videos where I go in and I manipulate curves. It's the same thing, right? Grab tangents and pull them around and what have you. So I guess that's it for tonight. And I would like to thank you all for joining in and checking this out. And I have to admit, I'm still recovering from this vacation that I was on, but I think Sunday I will be doing more sculpting, and yeah, I think yeah, sculpting. I got some ideas on some stuff I want to sculpt, but anyway, I think I might also do some like henna body painting. Something that I find interesting and fun, and my girlfriend will be the guinea pig, and I'll put henna on her arm or something. And I got some ideas. I got some experiments I want to do with that, which I think might be kind of cool. And I kind of like henna versus like regular tattoos because, well, tattoos are permanent, right? And I change my mind all the time. So I'm like, there's a reason why I don't have a tattoo. There's some amazing tattoo artists, but man, I know I would have regrets if I ever got a tattoo. 'Cause I'm only happy with artwork for a very short period of time. So anyway, I will actually skip past the stupid song. It's a horrible song. That's better. All right. So yeah, thanks for joining in, and I'll see you all next Wednesday. If not Wednesday, I will see you guys on Sunday for some sculpting. But yeah, so I hope you all have a good night, and I will see you all again real soon. I'm glad to be back.